Hi again then guys, and welcome to the 12th instalment of Beards and Cars. For any who are perhaps new to this series, this is where we just talk about basically everything and anything that doesn't fit into the existing schedule during the week. It's not car reviews, it's not tuning, it's totally different to that. We might be talking about anything. It could be literally anything. YouTube, movies, cars, gaming in general, all that kind of good stuff. And in this particular instalment of Beards and Cars, I wanted to talk about a number of different subjects, all within the same overall banner. We may or may not touch on all of them, because as many of you already know, I don't script these videos, so often I will talk for longer than expected about one thing and maybe not get onto another one, do that in another video or whatever. Now, the broad overarching subject that I wanted to talk about was changes on the channel. Stuff which is going to be changing, stuff which is going to be maybe staying the same or not being around at all anymore, stuff like that. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on is something which I'll probably talk about more sometime next week in a dedicated video, and that is my thoughts now about Gran Turismo Sport. Because of course I started doing reviews for GT Sport basically as soon as the beta was released, and that was over a month ago now. Those videos have loads of views, it brought a load of new traffic to the channel, a lot of new subscribers, which was awesome. And of course, as I said back then, it was obvious that it was going to happen, but it's kind of slowed down again a bit more now. That's exactly what I expected to happen, especially when I haven't been putting out that many GT Sport videos since then. In those first couple of weeks, I put out quite a few, probably like 7 or 8, something like that. Now, not so much. And the reason for that is very simple. As many of you guys already know, I only like to put out videos that I believe are legitimately needed and will benefit at least a group of people. I don't put out videos just for the sake of it. There are some people who apparently believe the contrary to that. Those people are wrong. I put out videos that will benefit at least some people, as I said. Now, obviously, the more people that they can benefit, the better. But I will very rarely cancel something like a series or a video for the sake of another video, unless I believe it's a bigger need for the community. So, with that being said, I didn't want to overstay the welcome of doing Gran Turismo Sport reviews. I didn't want to be putting out videos reviewing minute little details that nobody really cares about, or just talking about the game in ways that don't really matter. I wanted each of those review videos to have a specific purpose, be it looking at the physics, the graphics, the sound, the new tracks, the new cars, the online stuff, all of those big important topics that people want to know about, that people are talking about, that people talk about with every installment of a Gran Turismo franchise. So, with that said, I released those videos in kind of a sweet spot as far as time is concerned. People were clamouring for information about the beta. That has waned off a little bit now. Those videos still get very good views, and at the moment I'm putting out at least one GT Sport video a week, but instead of being a big audience, broad review that brings in a lot of traffic, they are more of my traditional kind of videos, which is just one car looking at the pros and cons of that vehicle, and slotting that into an existing series, be it B-Road Ballers, GT Masters, all that kind of stuff. And that will be continuing. I'm going to be doing at least one GT Sport car review every week for the foreseeable future. We have enough of them to run up until the game is released, whenever that turns out to be. Now, it's supposed to be this year, but of course I'll believe that when I see it, because it was also supposed to be last year, and Gran Turismo isn't exactly known for being released on time. But suffice it to say, there will not be a week in the foreseeable future, really, within the next year, easily, where you will not have at least one Gran Turismo Sport video, and it will be, at the very least, a dedicated car review, the majority of which will be race cars. And incidentally, I haven't talked about GT Sport in a while, because, as I said, I haven't produced those big review videos, but as I alluded to earlier on in this video, I will be putting out at least one more part of my review series for the game as a whole sometime in the coming week. That's when I plan to do it, and it's going to be basically my thoughts of the game 1 month on. So we've had time to play the game, to think about it, to play different parts of the game more thoroughly, to look into it, to consider it, smaller details, stuff like that. I noticed a couple of things that the community was bringing up quite a lot, at the very least on my videos, if not on others as well, and also things which I'd noticed myself, such as the fact, for instance, that the rear view mirrors don't look that great on Gran Turismo Sport. Now, of course, it's the beta. We have to bear that in mind. I've said that a number of times in my review videos. People in comments have said it as well, and it's a true thing. At the end of the day, the beta is not the full game. And even if it were the full game, it's not necessarily going to be the most refined version of the game, because even the beta has been updated a couple of times already. So, of course, it's not in its final form yet. That being said, though, you could say that about any game. You could say, well, it's not quite finished yet, even after the game's released. Look at Gran Turismo 6, for instance. How many patches did we have for that game? Does that mean that people shouldn't review it because it's not the very latest patch? No, of course not. Likewise with GT Sport. And the goal has always been to give you guys in the community who don't have access to the beta for whatever reasons, maybe you didn't apply, maybe you didn't get the message back, whatever, but it's to give you guys that information that you deserve. Because although, yes, the purpose of the beta is to refine the game, to assess the load on the servers and all that kind of stuff, you deserve to have the same information that those of us who do play the beta have. We aren't some kind of special group. We just happen to be the people who applied and who got selected. There's nothing special about us beyond that. And that isn't anything to be boastful about. You just happen to be the ones who got it. So as far as I'm concerned, and even if I got locked out of the beta for this, well, that would be very telling if they did ban me for it. But as far as I'm concerned, any information that I have is the information that you will get. I hold nothing back. I'm not told to hold anything back. I'm not suggested even to hold anything back. And if they did come back on me, maybe flagging my videos, trying to take them down, removing me from the beta, whatever, well, I would tell you about that immediately, because that is a bad sign if something like that were to happen. But at the end of the day, that hasn't happened. There's not even an inkling that it will, so that's all good. And so basically that video that I mentioned is going to be not necessarily the final part of the series, but just my reflective thoughts. I've already covered the fact that I don't necessarily love the concept of GT Sport. I covered that in this series, in fact, a number of episodes back. It's one of the most viewed episodes of this series, and there are thoughts either way, heated ones. Some people didn't agree, some people did. That's the nature of the internet. There's nothing wrong with that. What I take issue with is people who don't know how to articulate that with some common sense and decency. But of course, this is YouTube, so what do you expect? So that's one thing that's coming on the channel. Got car reviews, as I said, every week. I'm not planning to do tunes for GT Sport yet. There's not really much point, because although I have had people ask me to do some tune setups, and yes, you can do them, you can change certain settings, especially on the race cars, suspension, gearing, downforce, that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, there's not much point in doing that, because even if the video did get a lot of views, it's not going to benefit that many people, because there aren't a huge amount of people on the beta. Even the people who have it, such as friends of mine on PSN, a lot of them aren't even playing it that much anymore. I still race on the beta every day. There's a daily mileage milestone of 26 miles, and if you drive that distance, they give you a car. I've done that every day since the game has released, and I've started winning the same cars twice. I have no problem with that. I personally believe that those who have had access to the beta may well have bonuses in the main game. Maybe we'll get to keep some or all of those cars. Maybe not, but even if not, I don't mind. All of the time that I spend on the game is more practice, gives me more thoughts on it, all that kind of good stuff. So I've done it every day. Some people aren't still doing it. That's understandable. Once you start winning the same cars and you start to notice that the cars don't really change that much, the tracks don't really change that much, because we only have access to a very limited part of the game, then I can understand why people would start to potentially get bored of that. But for me personally, it just gives me more information to be able to talk to you guys about, with more experience behind the words that I say. It's not just pie in the sky stuff from watching other people's videos. You know when I say something about Gran Turismo Sport regardless of whether you believe it or agree with it, you know at least that I have spent a significant amount of time on the game to be able to say the things that I say. It's not just looking at a box and, you know, doing the proverbial judging the book by its cover. It's not that. I've read the book, in effect. So that's basically that aspect that I wanted to talk about. Stuff every week, one particular video next week. That's all well and good. Apart from that, there are a couple of other changes I've been thinking of doing to the channel. Of course, a couple of days ago, I released a teaser video. A couple of people had the right idea, and you can see in the comments a couple which had the right idea about what that teaser represents, what it means. A couple of people weren't sure what it meant. A couple of people found it frustrating, which is understandable. That's kind of the point. Many of you guys who are newer to the channel won't recognise that there is a certain part of the way I do videos that some people don't like. Those of you who have followed me for longer know that very occasionally, usually only once or twice a year, I like to put out troll videos. I like to make up fake videos, in particular for Gran Turismo, fake trailers, stuff like that, fake information, which is kind of mean in effect, but my idea is to troll tastefully. That's what I like to do. And basically what I'll do is I'll create a video that makes it appear like there's a certain car in a game, such as the hidden Porsche dealership video, or that the car sounds have been updated in my updated car sounds video, which incidentally did not come out as I wanted it to. Many people saw immediately that that was fake, and it really annoyed me. Not that people realised, but because that was not how I made the video. When I edited the video, all of the car sounds were in perfect sync. When I uploaded it though, they were all out of sync. And regardless of how many times I did it, it turned out the same every time. So that was really annoying. If you saw the video as I had made it, you would have loved it. But the fact that all the sounds are out of sync ruins it. So that was really disappointing to me. I've done some others as well, like the update patch, various others. You know, the Porsche dealership is probably one of the least popular ones. The earliest one I ever did, I think, was the motorbike on Gran Turismo 4, which is actually just a video of Tourist Trophy, but because Tourist Trophy doesn't have as many fans, people just see Midfield Raceway and think, oh, it's Gran Turismo. Understandably so. So that's basically something that I like to occasionally do on the channel. It's not mean-spirited, I don't mean to disappoint people, it's just a bit of tongue-in-cheek fun. Most of you know that, and the dislikes are usually okay. They don't get a ridiculous amount because there are enough people with common sense to immediately know, oh, this is fake. But it's actually kind of fun, because I like to create videos that are trolling, yes, definitely, but they're trolling people with things that you'd actually want to happen, not like rickrolling, which is just pointless. It's funny, but it's pointless. The stuff that I offer in a troll video is kind of believable. That's kind of the reason why I do it. I like it to have that believable nature. So some people do like that, some people don't, but this teaser is not like that. Because when I do make a trolling video, I don't claim that it's not. I'm straight up honest about it if someone asks, and often I will put something in the video that makes it blatantly obvious. Usually stuff like the release date. I'll put that in the video and it will be some date that doesn't actually exist. Like, for instance, the 31st of February release date, or something stupid like that, where people read it, but they don't actually think about it, they just gloss over it, whereas actually that's a glaringly obvious fact that the following video is clearly fake. But people just overlook that kind of stuff. So this teaser that I put out a couple of days ago is not fake, it's completely legit. Some people seem to think that it was Gran Turismo Sport related. Yes, I am putting out a couple of GT Sport videos next week, but no, it's not related to that. It's related to something which those who have been around on the channel for much longer will know that I've always wanted to do. But I haven't been able to, and suffice it to say that this thing, some of which, or some of whom you guessed correctly, is something which took a lot of messing around to be able to accomplish. Not a huge amount of money, but just quite a lot of faff. I had to buy a certain thing and then another thing to fit to it, and then a transfer cable for this thing to go to that thing, and it was kind of a mess, but the end result is pretty cool. Now, that's going to be coming next week. It's going to be starting on Monday, and there's going to be multiple videos about it. And some of you, as I said, did get the correct answer. The key to that video is to turn the volume up, and also, obviously, to recognize the audio that's in the video. If you recognize the audio in the video, and this is the biggest clue I can give, if you know what that music in the video is, then you have the right answer. If you don't know, then you'll never guess. But if you recognize it, you will immediately know what that video means, and whatever you're thinking is correct, because that is the only correct answer. So that is what that teaser means. Next week though, next Monday as I said, you'll see what it is, and it's something which is going to be implemented on the channel for quite a while to come, to say the least. Now, that aside, I was also thinking about the way the Forza videos are going. Now, the Forza videos don't have as many views as most of the Gran Turismo videos, which is understandable. This channel has catered to Gran Turismo and its community a lot longer than it has to Forza. And with Forza, basically the way I run it currently is the way I used to run the Gran Turismo side of things. Totally top speed tunes. That's how I got started with Gran Turismo as well, putting out one tune every day. Many people seem to completely misunderstand the point of those videos, saying things like, oh, who cares about top speed on this car and that car? Why'd you fit the same engine to every vehicle just to get the most power? Well, it's very simple, because my videos are designed to be adaptable. I'm not giving you a tune that you have to follow. I'm giving you the blueprints to a tune which can be repurposed to any build level you possibly want. So yes, it's a fully tuned car, but you could take the principles of that tune setup, if you're intelligent enough that is, and apparently I give some people too much credit in that regard, but you can take those principles, which I try and set forth in a simple way, because I value intelligence through simplicity, that has always impressed me, and present it in a way that, yes, is a fully tuned car, but you can take that fully tuned car and then just remove certain parts, or use the principles and change them for a lower setup, that kind of stuff. It's not a you must do this kind of tune. I've never done tunes that way. I've always said, no, try something different by all means. If you know what works for you, go for it. That, I think, is something which the majority of you realise. There's always some who don't, and that's disappointing, but that's their loss. So with that being said, and that slight side note as well, I was thinking about those Forza videos, because I had people saying, could I do other videos for Forza as well? Because obviously we're starting to bring in those Forza players as well. And I'm ultimately hoping to be able to cater to both of those primary racing audiences. Gran Turismo and Forza are still the two biggest names in that kind of racing franchise arena, if you will. You've got others like AC, Project Cars, Drive Club, but the big two have always been GT and Forza. Now, I don't expect the communities to overlap and get on with each other, but I want to provide for both either way, so that you can come to my channel for one thing, or you can come to the channel for another thing, and you don't necessarily need to watch all of my videos. That's not a requirement. But at the moment, of course, as I mentioned, I'm doing it in a very similar way to how I started with Gran Turismo. Just one tune a day, that's it, done for the week. Well, what I've been thinking of is maybe going to doing 2 Forza videos each day, but not 2 tune setups. One tune setup each day, Monday to Friday, as I currently am, but then also one car review every day, like for Gran Turismo. And basically it will be the same tuning, or not the same tuning, the same review series, the same titles in other words, but instead of obviously being for Gran Turismo, it will be for Forza. So instead of the video title being GT6 B-Road Ballers Renault Clio or whatever, it will be FH3 B-Road Ballers Renault Megane or whatever. So it's pretty obvious, but you know, that's how it's probably going to work if I do bring it into that. Now, the way that I plan to do it is maybe a little bit shorter than the Gran Turismo reviews, maybe around 5 or 6 minutes rather than 7 or 8. Maybe a bit more free-flowing, because of course Forza has never really had the focus on replay value that Gran Turismo has had. I mean, in terms of watching the replay of a race, Gran Turismo has always had a very good handle on replays. It's very cinematic, it's enjoyable to watch. With Forza, they do have replays, but they don't look that great. It's more about just driving the car, and that artistic side of things has never really been as important as it is on Gran Turismo. Not that that's a good or bad thing, it's just a totally different thing. Personally, I would prefer that Forza had a little bit better of a replay system, for things like me, but of course I'm just one small drop in the vast bucket of people playing the game. But with that being said, that's my hope, to possibly do 5 Forza tunes each week, as we currently are. We're going to work through not necessarily all of the cars in the game, but all of the ones which are deserving, basically, of having a speed tune done. So pretty much everything from maybe 220 miles per hour and higher. And incidentally, that's actually the way I did it for Gran Turismo as well. I would very rarely do a car that was lower than 220, because if it's already lower than that, most people won't use it for top speed racing anyway. Now, with the reviews, as I said, it will be similar to Gran Turismo, but maybe a little bit looser in its parameters. I won't necessarily be as technical as with Gran Turismo, because most players on Forza don't care as much about that as Gran Turismo does. Gran Turismo has always been more on the side of being nerdy, whereas Forza's more on the side of being geeky, and there is a difference between the two. Now, with Forza, we'll have to see how the audience goes. We've got an audience currently. I'm not actually sure how many of my subscribers are here just for Forza. It's very difficult to tell that kind of thing, because usually a gaming channel will have a total focus basically on one or the other. There are very few people who do Forza and Gran Turismo content simultaneously, especially not on the latest games. So it's hard to tell. I know that the vast majority is Gran Turismo, but that's about as accurate as I can say. So hopefully we'll see some growth there. The majority of you guys who are here for the Gran Turismo stuff probably don't really care about that anyway, but it's just to fill you guys in, because again, like with the Gran Turismo sports stuff, you're a part of this community, so you deserve to know. So potentially from next week we could see some interesting changes, stuff in terms of GT6 videos, GT Sport videos, Forza videos. It's not going to be anything radically different, just an extra video here, one less video there, that kind of thing. Major stuff isn't going to change. The photo mode competition is going really well. To be honest, I never expected the photo mode competition to do as well as it has. I'm really glad that you guys enjoy it. You still get people saying, oh, why wasn't I featured? It's understandable that people ask that, but you've got to realise how many entries I get every week, and I pick 10 of those. So of course, everyone isn't going to get featured. That's just the way it works. And sometimes even good photos can't get featured, because I just have to choose the 10 best. But for those who are maybe unclear on how the photo mode works, if you don't already know, and I have mentioned this a few times, once you enter a photo for the competition, even if you're not featured that week, I do keep the photo. I keep them all in a master file, and I only delete them once they've been featured. So basically, once you've entered a photo, even if you entered it in week 1, there's still a chance that you could be featured now, because I sift through all of them. All of the videos, or all of the photos, I should say, that I've ever been sent, and then I pick 10 out every week that happen to be my favourites of that week. So one week I may not like a particular photo, but then that same photo might hit me in a different way, and I might feature it the week after. So if you've entered it and not been featured, don't worry about that. You'll probably still be featured at some point in the future. Not necessarily the very next week, but somewhere down the line. And as far as other stuff like rivals, special projects, that kind of stuff goes, there's not really any major changes coming there. With special projects, we've done so many now that the cars tend to be getting a bit more obscure. So we're not necessarily going to continue that forever, but it's not ending yet. Likewise with Rivals, and the great thing about Rivals is it's such a broad thing. You can pretty much continue that forever if you continue having different car combinations. I'm trying not to feature the same car in multiple Rivals matches. I'm trying to keep it relatively unique in that way, but eventually you will see some crossover. For instance, we already did the Viper ACR versus the Corvette ZR1, but somewhere down the line I may well do a similar thing to the Ultimate Pagani Showdown, but just for Vipers, or just for Corvettes, or just for Evos or Imprezas, that kind of stuff, because that's a legitimate thing. And there are a couple of other series for GT6 which I haven't even started yet. Some people have been worried that my GT6 content maybe is dwindling, that there's not much more to come. Don't worry about that. There's plenty more to come, because if you haven't noticed, we don't do much Gran Turismo 6 tuning. We only do special projects. All of the rest is reviews. So yeah, there is plenty more to come, because once we've burned through the big review series, I'm going to be bringing even the tuning back for GT6. And for those who are maybe worried about the implications of GT Sport, because at the end of the day, not everyone can afford to just go out on a whim and buy a PS4. I totally understand that. Not that long ago, I wouldn't have, before I had a job, and I don't mean YouTube. So no, once GT Sport comes out, I'm not going to be stopping GT6 content, because there are still people playing it, just like there are still people who love GT5. Personally, I would play GT5 a lot more if you could actually still get online. That's such a dumb thing that they did, turning it off. From a business standpoint, it makes sense, but it's such bad will towards the players. Then again, who's surprised about that coming from Polyphony? So no, I'm not going to be stopping GT6 content just because of GT Sport, so you don't need to worry about that at all. The way things are going, as I said, there are changes coming, minor ones, major ones. The channel is still on a good track for hitting 10k before the end of this year. It was going to hit 10k before the GT Sport videos, when we were getting about 400 subscribers a month. Over the past, say, 2 months, that's been triple the speed. So we had like 12 or 1300 subscribers join instead of 400. So huge increase. So we're easily going to hit 10k by the end of this year if it continues at the same rate that it is now, or even if it drops, we still will. So that's pretty cool. And what's to talk about apart from that? Well, I was planning actually on doing another video update for the new games that I've purchased. I put one of those out every so often because I tend to buy new games every week. I like to go out of a weekend and buy some more used games and movies. I haven't done one in a while, so if enough of you guys wanted to see that, then I would, but I don't know, I just haven't got around to it. And I've actually got a lot of games that I've purely purchased just to do giveaways. The next major giveaway is probably going to be the 10k mark, and I'm not going to give away all the games, but quite a few of them probably are going to be given away. We've got older games, newer ones, stuff on the Xbox One, PS4 I think is in there as well, PS3, PS2, Xbox 360, PSP even, older Gran Turismo games, stuff like that, good stuff that I know a lot of you guys maybe haven't played and would like to. So overall, that's about it. We actually covered most, if not all, of the bases that I wanted to touch on with you guys, and I've actually got a question for you for next week. I've been picking, of course, the subjects for these videos, but for next week, I'd like you guys to pick some of the things that you'd like to talk about. It could be Q&A style stuff, or just broad subjects in general, maybe about specific games, could be movies, could be YouTube, or it could just be life in general. So yeah, if you'd like to see some specific things, drop those down below, and I'll see you then. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.